Welcome to video 3 of chapter 14. In this video, we will look at structured time activities. And we'll start with this chart here. I don't really spend much time on this, but it's just, take a look at it. It's comparing black and white youth and what types of activities they do. You can see that there's some differences, particularly with the amount of TV viewing that black youth do tend to watch more TV than white youth. But take a look at this yourself and read more about it in the book. There is a myth that American children are generally overscheduled, and we have them doing far too many scheduled activities, and this is interfering with their development. But this figure presented here is that only 3 to 6% of youth between the ages of 5 to 18 spend more than 20 hours a week in organized activities. Now, I think more than 20 hours is certainly would qualify as being overscheduled. That seems like excessive to me, but the figure that your book gives is that approximately 1 in 10 children may be described as actually being overscheduled. So it's certainly, a minority. It's still a lot, 10% of children, but it's certainly not most American children. There are certainly positive results for being in structured activities, higher levels of achievement in school, with higher high school graduation rates and more entrance to college, lower levels of substance abuse, and better overall psychological adjustment are some of the positive results of being involved in structured activities. Adolescents tend to be involved in more activities than younger children. There are, however, mixed outcomes for teenagers' healthy development. By being in structured activities, they must be planned carefully in order to be beneficial rather than potentially harmful. So, there is a wide variety in structured activities and how helpful or useful they are. One suggestion that's been made is that to be effective in reducing deviant behavior among teenagers, it's important to schedule the structured activities, after school between 3 to 6 p.m. And because this is when most problematic behaviors for teenagers occurs. It's in that after school period because often parents are still working, and then there is and many teenagers have free time immediately following school, and it is time that they may potentially get in trouble. So if you are scheduling structured activities, that's a great time to schedule them, have after school activities. Positive youth development is an approach to finding ways to help all young people reach their full potential. And this is part of positive psychology as a whole. Rather than identifying problems and how to avoid them, it's about how to develop good skills and habits and character traits. And the Search Institute, which it is majorly responsible for this positive youth development, they've identified a set of 40 developmental assets that promote positive youth development. So developmental assets are common sense, positive experiences, and qualities that help young people to become caring, responsible adults. One example is of their developmental assets is constructive use of time. And so examples would be, being involved in lessons or practice in music, for instance, or in theater or some other arts, being involved in youth programs in the community, being a member in a religious organization. These are some of the examples they give of constructive use of time. And they also promote not spending time outside the home, just hanging out with friends for more than 2 nights per week. So they have very concrete suggestions about how to how to go about developing these assets, such as constructive use of time. One type of structured activity is organized sports. As you can see, nearly 38 million children and teens in the U.S. take part in organized sports every year. It's been linked with many positive benefits, as long as the children are developmentally ready to participate in particular sports. And the indicators of a child's readiness to participate in a particular sport is, first of all, obviously their age. So, is a child the right age to be in a particular sport? Secondly, you want to look at the skill set of an individual child. If they don't have the skills developed for a particular sport, it can be very detrimental to put them into that sport. If they are not physically capable, for instance, and of doing that particular sport. And thirdly, you want to look at the child's motivation to participate. I think it's very sad when parents force children into sports and make them endure it if they're really hating it and and have no enjoyment. I mean, that's just for the parents. Then they want their child to do that particular sport, and you want the child to have some self motivation in order to really benefit from the sport. So there's lots of parents that may start their kids at a young age and in some kind of softball or something, but you always see that there's certain kids that are just sitting in the outfield, picking at the grass and not even following the play at all, and this is not helpful to them at all if they have no interest in participation. Oops. Um, Nice chart in your book. This is on page 567, 567, figure 14.7. So it goes over a lot of injuries and whatnot by different sports and things like that. So take a look at this. There's evidence showing that many children, in fact, approximately 70% of children who do participate in organized sports drop out by the age of 13. But they feel that more children might continue past that age if we were to emphasize skills, teamwork, and fun in sports rather than winning. And because we often have an overemphasis on winning being the most important thing. There's nothing wrong with competitiveness, but we would keep a lot more people actively involved in sports if we did promote just more about having fun and teamwork and building skills. Uh, some of the reasons that have been given for children dropping out of sports is that it's just no longer fun, and this is because of the overemphasis on winning. And another reason is that parents are sometimes very concerned about injuries, and this contributes to children dropping out of sports as well. Creative activities. Okay, creative activities are also an important part of promoting positive youth development, helping children and adolescents express themselves and become involved with their peers and adults in their communities. Um, so one one finding is that adding creative arts to the existing curriculum has helped low-income preschoolers be better prepared for school. So they already find, even at the preschool age, if you add creative arts to the curriculum, it contributes to the preschoolers being better prepared for school. Just to repeat the result, and so I mean, this was controlled research that was done, and it showed that it was beneficial. And whereas many parents or others may feel like we need to concentrate on building their academics and their math and spelling, and of course you need to work on those things at an early age, but the surprising finding was that the creative arts also really helped these children get ready for school. Uh, Another finding I want to mention was that Larson and Brown, two researchers from 2007, this was published, they found that teenagers who took part in a community theater program learned to understand and manage their emotions better. And it's kind of like this result reminds me of a similar result that they talked about in a different chapter about the importance of fantasy or pretend play for preschoolers, and that was shown shown to be very beneficial for preschoolers to learn about managing and understanding their emotions. And so it's a similar idea because in both cases you're taking on roles of others, rather whether you're a preschooler doing fantasy play, pretend play, or you're in a community theater program. I mean, you're taking on other roles and expressing emotions of from other viewpoints rather than your own, and this helps to learn about to learn about emotional interactions with others. So very positive benefits identified in a couple of studies for creative arts. Now, I got a couple of slides on the world of work, and I sometimes skip this over, but I'll go through it quickly with you. In the U.S., most teens take part in paid employment of some kind at some point in their adolescence. Youth in the U.S. are 30% more likely to be employed than youth in other developed countries. However, the evidence is mixed on whether work is associated with positive or negative outcomes. There have been studies showing both, and it depends on the sample, within the study. Things like their socioeconomic status turns out to be important, the ethnicity of the participants in the studies, the motivation of them, the type of employment they do, the number of hours per week. And this is why you get the mixed results. There's a number of variables that determine whether the outcomes are more or less positive or negative. So socioeconomic status, ethnicity, motivation, type of employment, number of hours of work per week are all important variables. I'll give you just one finding. One of the effects of part-time employment for teenagers over the age of 16 that come from lower income families is actually a lower risk of dropping out of school. That's a positive benefit of part-time employment, once again, for those over the age of 16 and when they come from lower income families. Perhaps, and there's a couple of reasons that may exist. Perhaps they're learning more responsibility through the work, or maybe they're learning that they better do more education because maybe they don't like this work that they're doing. And so maybe I'm not sure why the result exists, but it actually working part-time helps to keep them in school. I am skipping over this final chart. I do want you to look at it yourself, read about it in the book, but I'm not going to really talk about it at this point. So take a look at this chart on your own. And this will conclude this video, number 3, from chapter 14.